Hello again, everyone. I have a problem. I'd say it's a problem that a lot of us vintage TV collectors have. I'm running out of room. This is my basement, and the shop's over there. You can see the workbench. And this side of the room is starting to get filled up with TVs. These have all been restored. I'm not liking the way I display them. So I'm trying to come up with some kind of a different idea to maybe build shelves over here between this wall and furnaces in there, so we can go all the way to that wall. So I'm thinking maybe put the two consoles I have kind of where that one's at, so we can line them across. The largest set I have other than the consoles is this Dumont. I think I'll make it out of 2x4s. This metal shelving is okay, but you're limited on the spacing. You can't go too wide or it won't hold up what I want to put on it. So that should free up most of this area that I can start collecting more, I guess. It just kind of gets out of hand, and I think most of you folks know what I mean by when I say that. Can't resist. So anyway, I'm going to do some measuring, and I'll probably draw up something, show you that, and we'll go from there. Alright, I've come up with a plan. Have 86 inches from this wall to this wall, and have 86 inches from the floor to the ceiling. I have to keep in mind for each shelf I make, if I make them out of 2x4s, that's going to cut down on my shelf size and my overall height. I got to take that in consideration. So my plan is to come up 36 inches inside from here to the floor. Then I'll have a shelf that's 19 inches. On the next shelf, and I need 12 inches in height. And then that leaves me a very top shelf. And the top shelf will be 12.5 inches to the ceiling. And we'll get started on this and see if I can make this look a little better. Doing some experimenting here on what kind of joints I want to make. Imagine this is one of the uprights. Shelves will be running this way, so the shelves will be like that. That keeps me from losing height on my shelves. Typically you would just fasten it like that, and you're losing all of this height here before the next shelf starts. And let me show you how I did that. Using my radial arm saw. This is a board because my blade won't cut all the way to the back of this cut. If I set it up there, the blade stops. In other words, now I got to flip it around and finish my cut. So if I put that board there, I can run all the way through and make my dado. Putting the 2x4, marking on both sides, cutting it to the line, not any further. And then before I finish the cut, I'll stop, test it, and see how much more I need to take off. But that's going to be a simple way of doing it. And I'm approximately halfway through my upright with my dado. And the way I set that was just that little wood block. Sets my depth of my blade. Stops the blade before it goes all the way down. Let's get the uprights back here and we'll mark off where our shelves go and get these dados cut. Okay, done a little sweeping underneath the old rack, so we're ready. The reason I'm have the level up here, this floor is higher around the wall than it is out in the middle. Long story about that, but it's probably a good ½ inch higher here than it is where the front of the shelves I'm building is going to be. So here's what I had under the old shelf assembly. It's ½ inch concrete board or cement board. Okay, back down in the woodworking shop. You might not have understood what I was meaning up in the basement, but these two front uprights are going to be 5/8 of an inch longer than the ones in the rear. Because of the slope of the floor, this will level these shelves up. Cutting my dado on the two front pieces, and then once I get those cut, there'll be three cuts to make. Once I get those done, then I'll match up the rear pieces, and they'll be 5/8 of an inch shorter, so I'll match up the top with the top of the front piece, and the dados will be in the right position then. First, we need to cut the length of the two front 2x4s, and they should be 85.5, and then the back ones will be 84 7/8, because they'll be 5/8 shorter. And clamping two of them together. That way our cut will be the same on both. Now we need the two back pieces. We need them 84 7/8. Okay, there's my 3 dados, and I just used the end that come off the 2x4s as a measurement. There's the third one. Using my clamp the two uprights together. Have my board behind so the blade will cut all the way through. Okay, there's the first 2 dados. Okay, now I'm going to take the 2 back uprights, the ones that'll be next to the wall. We'll lay them over here on the table, and we'll transfer our dados from the 2 front ones to the 2 back ones. Okay, dados are finished and lining up fine, so we're ready to cut some shelves next. So we need 6 of these. We want our total width from here to here to be 86 inches. My 2 dados are 1.75 inches total. That's both sides added together. So we need 84.25. And I'm cutting 2 at a time. Have them clamped together. All right, there's a start. Got our 3 shelves attached to the uprights. And of course we're going to go 24 inches from the wall. The back shelf assembly fastened at the top. I had to move this electrical outlet. I decided to move it up. It wasn't that big a deal to do. That way the shelf's not bumping against it. And here at the bottom, this needs to go back, so I just drive a shim right there to push this back to where this is plumb, just against the conduit here. We got everything fastened and it's sturdy. And what I done here, this is just 3/8 plywood, and that's fastened to the outside. So that strengthens it up and makes it plenty strong enough now. It's not going to go anywhere. This is how I got my spacing correct from here to the wall. Just put this piece of wood, measured, and then clamped it where it needed to be. Here's what I'm going to be using for shelves. This is 3/8 sanded on one side. So this side is already smooth. So really all I need to do on it is dust it, because when we picked this up, Rita was with me and we got it down off the racks and we both got dust all over us, and so it's still pretty dusty. So we have to make sure we get it wiped off good. It's kind of complicated, don't it? But I think all three shelves should work with the same numbers. I'm going to cut one, take it up to the basement and see if it fits. If it does, then I'll just cut 2 more by using my first one as a template. On the front of the shelves, we're using this piece of molding, and basically it's going to sit on the shelf like that. You'll notice I flipped this first sheet over. Want to cut it from the back because I'm going to be using a little cordless circular saw, and the blade will cut up so that it'll leave a finer cut on the top side. In order to use these shelves with this cutout here, there's not enough room to tip it up and get it in there. So we're just going to cut it in half. We'll put it in 2 pieces. Well, we got a good fit. The only thing I'm going to have to go cut again, this front edge. I want that piece of trim to be flush against my 2x4. So I'm going to have to rip this down. I'm thinking about 1/4 inch, but I'm going to go get the piece of the trim. We'll hold it up there and see what it looks like and get a measurement that way. Well, they all fit. And after ripping down this front edge, now the molding will go right against the 2x. And what I'll do where this molding stops, I put a 45 on the very end. Here's what I was talking about on the end of the trim. Put a 45-degree cut. And I'll measure from the longest side, it's 86 1/4 to the other end, and we'll put the opposite cut on it. I will be just putting polyurethane on these shelves and the front trim. Just need to hook up my electrical outlet, which means turning the breaker off, so I'm going to do that next. And it's nice to have a breaker box with everything labeled. Rita and I done this a couple of years ago. It took a few hours time we went to each room to confirm that that breaker was on that room. And it looks like basement is 11 and 13, which is right here. Well, it's definitely off, at least the lights are. But let's check just make sure that the outlet's off. And it is. This is my handy AC voltage detector. So we're safe to put this outlet back on now. All right, good on that. Well, let's see how we did. And let's check plumb. Just getting started on the stain. And this is a stain sealer. And we built a 2-car garage about 3 or 4 years ago, and this is what we used on the post on the inside of it. So I had probably 1/4 of it left, and I think that's more than enough to do this. You notice I haven't stained the molding. I'm going to leave it and the shells, and we'll finish them with just some polyurethane. I've already wiped the shells off and they're drying, so it gives me a chance to go ahead and get this darker stain put on. I'll update you when I'm finished. Well, now we play the waiting game. We got polyurethane on the shells, the trim, and even put a coat on the front of the uprights. After the polyurethane dried, went back and sanded one more time, and we'll put another coat of polyurethane, because I want this just as smooth as I can get it. Now, no, it's not going to be perfect, but makes it a lot easier to keep clean. Dust don't stick to it as bad if I can get it as slick as possible. Alright, shells are dry, so we're going to begin to put these TVs and a few small radios over here. First, I'm going to start with the consoles. So I'm going to put the Dumont right there. Well, I've added a couple of supports because this first shelf had deflected downward about 1/4 of an inch. Probably was not enough to really worry about, but I didn't want it to go anymore, so we got that pole in there. We have one in the back also. It's kind of hidden back there. And this is a base I plan on putting a Dumont on. I just need to take it down to the shop and cut the legs off. And I did swap out. I put the Sylvania on the shelf. Set the months to the side. The screen on it has some issues. Implosion shield is discolored and rough, so the Sylvania looks better. Okay, cut the legs off with this stand. And I think I'm going to beef it up too. Put a brace across here. That Dumont is a heavy set, and I want to make sure I don't have any problems with it collapsing the stand. And these old legs had little plastic feet, so I'm taking them off. They just push in like a tack. So I'm going to put them on what's left of the base and make it slide a little easier. And remember the unlevel floor. This will be the front. It's about a 1/2 inch longer than the back. This was the top of the long base right over there. It was wider than the base, so I could had more room for 2 sets on it. So instead of taking this to the garage, Rita had a good idea. She said, put it up for a fake wall right here. And that's what we did. That hides the furnace and makes it look a little more complete. Well, what do you think? We've got everything put where I think it needs to be. And I put the Predicta tandem and the Predicta pedestal right there. And the Debutante and a Safari portable TV over here. The only issue I had putting these on the shelves was this Teletone that had the magnifier on the front. I failed to take that into account. That's a little higher, but we was able to get it in there, and it worked okay. And I do have some extra space that's unused underneath the Dumont set. 7-inch set would fit under there, and as well as under the Debutante. And this is the base that was over here originally. We did take the top off and made that fake wall that I mentioned. But this gives me some more storage down here in case I find some more sets I want to restore. And this cedar chest is going upstairs, so that'll free up some more floor space. So that completes the build on the new basement TV storage area. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Well, we hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, how about giving us a like and subscribing to our channel? Thanks.